Welcome to Intermission. My name is Scott Beechin. Thank you for being with us this week. And on today's show, we will be talking with Mr. Jay Shrub of the band Shrub. So that'll be coming up in a couple minutes. It occurred to me, that this podcast that is only a few episodes old here was kind of conceived, I guess, behind the notion of talking about COVID-19 and talking about just the virus and the disruption that this virus has caused within the music and entertainment industry. And while I do think that is a worthwhile thing to discuss, only a few episodes in, and I'm getting kind of bummed out just thinking about it. So I guess, we're going to talk about it. We're going to continue to talk about this because, of course, we are. When we speak with artists, we need to know what they're doing. I mean, there's, besides all the bullshit surrounding this, there's definitely a cool time. This is a cool time for innovation and figuring things out as artists and how we're going to navigate everything. But I find that in the few discussions I've had with people over the course of the past few weeks that really we don't know what's going to happen. And I don't think we will maybe anytime soon, and that's fine. But instead of talking over and over again about the lack of direction and the lack of any sort of news as to what's going to happen when we're going to start to play shows again, I really just want this more to be about talking about music, talking about artists that I'm friendly with and artists that I think are great, and talking about our history and just kind of bullshitting about stories, not necessarily focused so much on what may or may not be. I feel like there's enough of that in the news, and I find myself tiring of it very much in every way, be it social media or just the general news feed on whatever news you choose to watch or not watch or listen to or read. There's just a lot of the same, and there's not much happening. So with that said, I'd like to just proclaim that we're going to shift the focus a bit. And of course, we're going to talk about what everyone's up to now. And there's no avoiding what's happening now. So that will be discussed. But I think we're going to shift the focus away a little bit from the unfortunate state of affairs and the sort of speculation as to what might happen. It just seems to be a little useless, and I'd rather focus on some positive stuff. So that's that. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Jay Shrub. Jay Shrub, how the hell are you?
Scotty, how you doing, man? It has been so long since I've talked to you. So
so long.
I mean, actually, it's been a few weeks. I talked to you for that one night, but
that's true. We did talk that one night. Indeed, we did. Yeah,
but we didn't really catch up too much. So, man, it's nice chatting with you. How you been?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to chat with you. So, what's happening in your world right now?
Whew, a lot of exciting stuff. It's a really fun time in my life, honestly. Which, being in the music business for the last 10 plus years, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. But right now, this last 2 months, regardless of what's going on, it's just been a whirlwind of excitement and fun and a little bit of, nervousness as well. We got a new album that came out and came out on Friday, May 15th. And, just been pushing that. And, I'm just really in a good place there musically, feeling good about being back in music again and hanging out with my kid, which is always fun, as much as she really doesn't really like hanging out with me anymore. But, that's been nice.
That will happen. That will happen at a certain age. How old is she?
She's 12, but man, I'm telling you, they say it's so cliche, like, oh, she's 12 going on 18, but she really is 12 going on about 16 is a pretty realistic number. She thinks I'm not cool anymore. She just wants to hang out with her friends. She'll kick me out of her room. I mean, it just doesn't end. And obviously we have super like great relationship and then super loving, but at the same time, I'm just not cool anymore. I'm like a utility for her. Dad, make me lunch. Dad, take me to mom's house. Dad, do this, right? That's
That sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah.
how now do you have two kids?
I have a daughter who is 14 and a son who's 5. And yeah, I understand well, I mean, she's officially a teenager, but when I think around the time when she was 12, 13, we were feeling those preteen vibes. And yeah, whether or not I was ever cool, I certainly don't feel as cool anymore. My 5-year-old thinks I'm really cool,
Exactly.
whatever that's worth. So I'll take that. But I mean, all things considered, despite her age, we're having a great time actually enjoying. Now, is your daughter, does she live with you full time?
So her mom and I are divorced, and during all this stupid shit that's going on right now, we've decided to take a 2-week plan. So we do like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So I still have her half the time, which is great, which is like a normal schedule. It's just it's less frequent but longer duration, and it's been actually kind of nice. It's nice to settle in. You can plan things obviously in the future if we kept this
Hmm.
schedule. So we might go ahead and keep this. I kind of like the 2-week on, 2-week off.
That's cool. That's cool. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there is definitely some, I don't know if if you came in after I did my intro here, but what I alluded to is the fact that it's kind of a bummer, just dwelling on this situation a little bit and all that isn't happening, or just specifically with music, but obviously in the grand scheme of things, life, right? It sucks, but just trying to look, I guess, at the silver lining in all of this, and having this sort of uninterrupted time with the family, I think is actually a blessing and really cool. So I think, and I hope that you're feeling that as well. It sounds like you are. I mean, as uncool as you may be to her, I'm sure that this time we're going to look back at this time one way or another, and I guess feel fortunate that we had some of this uninterrupted time with family.
Yeah. What I'm looking forward to is like, kayaking a lot. We can still do that right now.
Yeah.
I'm looking at one of those one wheels. Do you know what a one wheel is?
Is it like a skateboard with a wheel in the
It
middle?
is. It's like a single, uni-wheel, unicycle, whatever you call that, single
They're,
wheel. It
they're
go.
motorized, right?
It is, and it goes off
Yeah,
terrain
I've
on the
seen those.
beach. I don't know. You can kind of go in the grass. You can go on pavement. I'm thinking about getting one because I think it'd be fun to tool around Columbus all day, on one of those, and get out and enjoy some fresh air. It's gonna be
Are
nice.
those are those hard to? I mean, I used to ride a skateboard when I was way back in the day, and I never really got good at it. But I could at least balance on it. And now, if I attempt that, it's a disaster, really. But are these motorized ones? I imagine you still need to have some sense of balance, right?
I imagine so. I mean, I've never ridden one, but like my fat ass, I probably might struggle, right? You might be able to pull it off. I don't know about me, man.
I don't know, man.
I
I
just
don't know.
I just think it's gonna make me cooler in my daughter's eyes if I get one of these things, Like
Okay.
I'm baiting her, It's like I got like a worm on a hook and I'm dangling it in front of her. I'm like, come on, bite, come on. Hey, think I'm
Yep.
cool, think I'm cool. And
Yeah.
that she's about to take the carrot and at least I'm gonna bribe her into liking me. So
Yeah. Yeah. So the album dropped 5 days ago. Um, Pretty exciting. Back to Earth, is that what it's called?
it is, yeah, back to earth.
Yeah, I've heard a few tracks from it. Sounds incredible, as your stuff always sounds incredible. But this one's been a few years in the making. Yeah.
Oh yes. We have 3 albums out now. Like an initial EP that came out in 2009, I believe, or maybe 10, and then we had that album's called Senorita, which
Hmm.
just kind of was one of those fun projects where we didn't realize we were going to start a band when we put it together, put it out, and then caught some traction and decided to start a band, and then fast forward to 2013, I believe, we put out High Ceratops, which is an album, I'm very, very proud of and I love. A lot of people don't listen to their own shit, but once in a while I'll put on High Ceratops, I gotta admit. And And I just listened to it and just, grateful for that time and how much fun it was creating that album. And then,
Yeah.
took a really long hiatus from recording and even playing shows for that matter. And about 2 years ago, started thinking about putting together a new album because it had been so long. And lo and behold, 2 years later, we finally put out Back to Earth, and it is an 8 song album that I'm very proud of. It really is a pretty raw, authentic representation of what my life's been like for the last maybe 3 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Taking
Mm-hmm.
the hiatus from Shrub, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a real raw, introspective take with like a really profound, I guess, sentiment at the end that really kind of explains where my head's been and where I'm at now. That progression from not knowing if you're going to make music anymore all the way to putting this out and feeling good about it and feeling good mentally myself, which is, the most important thing and partially why I needed to take a break from music anyway. Right. So,
Yeah.
I found the healing in music again rather than the pain in music. And I think that album, Back to Earth that just came out, I think it really, really showcases that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really want to hear more about like the idea, uh, the hiatus, and how this is a bit of a biographical document in a way of this whole bit. But for people that aren't familiar with the Shrub story, can you give us a quick rundown on, uh, how you guys all how you came to be as a band? I find it to be a very I like how your band operates in a way, like you are Jay Shrub, like you are Shrub in a way, and you surround yourself with incredible musicians, and I think there's been lineup shifts over the years, and it always just hits hard when you come out, and I think that that's such a cool thing. It's almost like you're a concept band in a way, which I hope you don't take the wrong way, but I think that it's a what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's kind of like it's a vibe, it's a lifestyle, and the music is just like the soundtrack to it. And I think that that's such a cool, different approach. But could you bring us back to the inception of the whole idea?
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes back real far, right? If I was going to give a quick background kind of leading up to the band starting, I'd always performed music in some capacity my whole life and always loved being a performer, even when I was
Hmm.
a young kid. I mean, I was the one breakdancing in breakdancing competitions in second grade and crying because I'd get second place, right? That was me. And then,
Yeah.
you fast forward to like high school and, really started performing more with musicals, things like that. And then, got into hip hop and, listening to a lot of real cool, like old school hip hop, like EPMD, Easy E. I mean, I could go on
Yeah.
and on, Beastie Boys, whatever, all that stuff. And really started getting into like the culture side of it, and thinking I was kind of cool because I was a senior in high school, rolling around in a car, listening to Snoop Dogg Doggy Style, right? Thinking I was cool, smoking weed. But,
Yep. Yep.
I started rapping a lot, along to the music and really just found like enjoyment in performing hip hop music. And I do it for my friends, and then then in college, I do it with my roommate's band. He fortunately was in a really, really cool band in Bowling Green, Ohio, which is where I went to school. And would join him on stage and do like Biz Marquee songs and Sublime songs and all kinds of just random stuff, whatever we felt like doing that night and freestyling it
Yeah.
more often than not. And, so I got to play with him, maybe like 150 shows, I'd say, in college. So, do like a song a night with him, freestyle mostly. And that was cool because I really do enjoy freestyling. And that just kind of led me to this midlife crisis moment in 2005 where I'm hanging out in my basement. I'd played enough Call of Duty to last me like a lifetime of Call of Duty on Xbox, right? I mean, just I wore my controllers out, and I was like, man, I just need something else. Something's
You weren't.
lacking.
You weren't. Yeah. You weren't going to make a career out of Call of Duty.
No, and nor would I want to. I wouldn't feel that accomplishment, of creating.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
good to win. I love winning, but at the same time, I need to create.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there just bored out of my mind, and I said, I got to do something about my marriage, and I have to do something about my career and my hobby and my creative passions. And I just kept coming back to, man, I really have always wanted to play music, write music, record music, perform. I've always wanted that. I've always craved it, always, just desired that ability to express myself. I don't know why, and I like connecting with people, and that kind of goes hand in hand.
Hmm.
And I just decided, I'm going to buy some software. I bought something called Project 5, which is like a cakewalk product, and I looped a bunch of beats together and would steal stuff and sample stuff and put it all together and just start rapping over it. And I started recording in my basement every night, till 4 or 5 in the morning. I just get high as hell and just record whatever came to mind. And I'm telling you, if you listen to some of this garbage, oh, it's so bad, Scotty, it's so bad. But some of it actually became the music of Shrub, which is crazy. I mean, we have songs like Go Run, Go Tell. So it's like, go run, go tell all the people that we are here. Like, there's like a hook, right? But if you go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
and listen to like early stuff that I was working on in my basement in 2005, you'll hear Go Run, it's like sirens start the song and it's like, go run, go
Yeah.
tell all the people. It's so bad, right? I had this affect to my voice and, I was trying to talk really deep, go run, go tell, and it was funny. And, so, doing that. And then my friends were like, man, you should really record an album. Quit, just playing around with this software, work with a real producer, right? You got some good ideas, but you definitely need polish and you definitely need to surround yourself with folks that, know what they're doing, And so I got serious about it after a few years and I put an ad on Craigslist and said, here's a couple songs I've been working on in my basement. Does anyone want to work with me? And Blaine Dillinger, a gentleman that was a guitar player in Columbus at the time, he answered the ad in like 5 minutes and he was like, dude, I listened to these songs already. I'm in. What are we doing? And I responded and said, I actually know who you are. I actually knew a band that he was in and my friends were like really into him. Like that was their favorite band in Columbus. And so I was very familiar with him and the songwriter in that band. And I said, oh, yes, let's do it. So I met him in his apartment and we just started writing music and that eventually became Senorita.
You couldn't love me like I wanted, couldn't love me like I needed, couldn't be my one and only, couldn't be my senorita, Teresita, mamacita, you see girl that I need you, leave me dying, leave me crying, simply trying for no reason.
From there, we played all kinds of shows, up and down roller coaster ride sort of career as a band, like you said, there's a lot of different versions of Shrub that have come in and out over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Blaine stuck around for a while, and then maybe in like 2011, maybe 12, he moved to California and joined Clear Conscience, really good band from the Bay Area. And then after that, he joined Hyrie, and he's still with the Hyrie band right now. And he's also working on the new album. He worked on this new album with me. It's him and I doing this project. But over the years, a lot of different installments of the band, and like you said, and it comes down to there is this vibe and this lifestyle about Shrub. I'm glad you see that and have seen that. Thankfully, we got a chance to tour with you guys. So many dates that we've played with you guys all across this country. And, I feel really blessed to be able to do that and spread that vibe and spread that Shrub love, we call it, to, cities all over the United States. So, we're back in the saddle though. We decided we're going to dust the cleats off and we're back in here, put this album out, and I don't know. I couldn't be any happier back in music right now.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And now, am I correct? Did you say that was Blaine involved in the new album as well?
Yeah. So,
Oh, okay.
2 years ago, I hit Blaine up and said, "Man, I'm writing a lot of music," and he's like, "Well, let's work on stuff together." And I said, "Yeah, you want to?" And he's like, "Of course." And we have an amazing relationship together. On that Senorita album, he recorded all the songs on High Ceratops. He and I worked on probably 5 maybe of those 14 songs, or him and I and others, from an earlier version of Shrub. And then, maybe like 8 or 9 of the songs after that, maybe 7, were like a newer installment of Shrub. But Blaine, he's always been there. He's like a rock, right? Like he's someone that he motivates me because he's so passionate and he works so hard. And as you know, Scott, the people that do well in this business and survive, and you've seen, people come up, guys you guys have helped out, and the hard workers, really, really see payoff. They really see the dividends of the hard work. And Blaine's one of those guys, so he just busts his ass. He does whatever it takes If you need anything done, he volunteers, and he's one of those guys. So I've always relied on him heavily, his musical chops, his production, his guitar
Mm-hmm.
playing, his performance. I've always relied on him to be a leader in Shrub throughout the years. And then when he left, it was a big open wound, right? And to get him back on board and to be fully behind that, if you call Blaine right now and say, what bands are you in right now? He'll be like, well, I'm in Hyrie, of course, that's his main project, but he's like, I'm also in Shrub, and we're trying to do some really cool stuff and put out good music that hopefully connects with people.
He's part of the Shrub family. I mean, it seems.
He is. You can go back to old videos and him and I being in some, shitty little apartment working on the first tunes we ever wrote. And, some of it's so cheesy. We have this one song, it's called Milk and Cookies, right? And it's like milk and cookies, milk and cookies. Like, it's so bad, right? It's almost like an LL Cool J song from way back in the day.
I was going to say, that sounds
right?
like an LL, that sounds like milk and cereal, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that girl, she's milking cookies. And it's just like, come on, Jay, what are you guys doing? But, at the time, Blaine and I thought those were great. So
Yeah.
it's fun to bring those back, but it's also cool to listen to some of the stuff that eventually became songs in Shrub. And, it's just great to have them back in the Shrub camp. It just, I always need people around me to help. I can't do it all. And, I like working with people, like you said, that are, tiers above me, because it just brings the best out in me. So I'm blessed to have Blaine.
I think it's just so cool that you describing your earliest demos of just rapping over loops and stuff, and seeming that you're not, I guess kind of downplaying the quality of it, but you put up an ad, and in 5 minutes he responded, and then I mean, I think that's probably speaks to that he saw that there was a spark there, that there was something to be molded and taken to the next level. So I think, like, just what a fortunate pairing, the two of you, in a way. And I think it probably speaks a little bit higher of that material than you're willing to admit, but something came of it, and it bore the fruit was born of that that early period, in which became stuff on the Senorita EP, which is I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've often toyed around with the idea of maybe, releasing an album of all that, or maybe even 2 albums of all that old stuff, but a lot of it's like unfinished. So it's like, well, how do you put it all together and make it something that's palatable and, satisfies the user? But at the same time, some of my friends, they're like, man, you need to put out that Just Jay stuff. That's what they call it, Just Jay.
That's what you call it.
And
Just Jay.
Just Jay.
I love it.
It's pretty, oh man.
Well,
There's some bad ones.
Count me among those that want you to put it out. I mean, I want milk and cookies in my life right now.
Oh, I'd pay a lot of money right now for some homemade cookies right now. Like, I'm really into that.
Oh man. Yeah. About whether it's Blaine or whether it's other musicians, some guys I know, some guys I don't know through our history together. But man, you just have the knack for finding these great cats that can play and write. I mean, I know you do the writing, but you collaborate with these people, and I think that's a skill in and of itself, is to be able to pull together, to rally like a crew and say, this is our objective, come with me, follow me, I have a plan. And it's always seemed to me that, like, that's your strong suit. You have a plan, you have a focus and a goal, and you rally people behind you, and you just, whether it's a performance or a record that you put out, it's always high quality, and it's always just catchy, great music. In the playing on it is incredible. So I think, kudos to you for being that guy. I think a lot of bands have all the talent in the world, but don't really have any focus. And I've had experience with that sometimes in my musical career, in different bands that I've been in, that, yeah, there's a lot here, but like no one really has like a focus, and that's kind of a problem, and then it fizzles out or whatnot. And I think a big ingredient that bands don't have is the captain, and you're like the captain of the ship, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm, some say I'm synonymous with Shrub, but I always kind of hated that just because ideally, I'd love to have a group of like-minded folks that all want to work together and play. And like, that's my goal, right? Is, to have a foundation of
Yeah.
amazing musicians that all feel like synergy and as one and want to work together. And,
Hmm.
that's ideally what would be amazing. But, to some degree, you do have to have someone that leads the troops and helps decide direction. And I do love that responsibility. It's there's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I am a creative type, and part of this role, yeah, it's a business, but part of the role of forging the sound of a band or the brand, so to speak, or the feel or the message, part of that is most of it is like a creative streak, and I love that just as much as the music.
Right.
This, but other people listening, may not have ever heard of Shrub or been to a show, but we pride ourselves on that merch game, right? And how a variety and cool, interesting things to buy at the merch table. And I always used to tell people, especially like new members of the band when they'd come in, I'd be like, well, I like being on stage as much as I like being behind the merch table, just interacting. And people
Yeah.
people can't understand that. They're like, what? No, I just like making music and smoking weed and hanging out, or whatever it may be. And I really like the business side of the music business. I think it's gangster as fuck at times.
Hmm.
It can be rough, it can be hard, but it also can be super enjoying or enjoyable, and get a lot of enjoyment out of it, I guess is the better way of saying that. But I like that side of it. I like being that leader that's just forging the direction. And you know, I say that, but here I am by myself and then teaming up with Blaine. So obviously, it's a lot harder for me to do than I wish it was. I think for some people, early on they just learn how to lead, and I'm still learning how to lead.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I really do think that your strength as a leader comes through in, I guess, to talk about the differences between the creative part of a band and the business part of a band. Like that's always like this weird duality of the it's almost a cliche that a band is a business, right? Run it like a business, blah blah blah. And part of me gets that and understands that, and part of me is like, ah, fuck that, like there's
Exactly.
there's there's like if every if every good business person uh was able to just start a band, like there would be a lot would be a lot of different bands out there, like it's not just that, it's just one piece of the puzzle, right? Your merch game, so you guys have the creative stuff, the music stuff that you're putting out, it's incredible. But when you mentioned the merch thing, and I remember seeing on the new Facebook sort of fan page that you have up, the is it the Shrub Hub? Is that
The
am I remember?
Shrub Hub, yep.
The Shrub Hub, yeah. Someone made a comment about the best merch game in town, and hell yeah, I mean, like just completely blowing everyone out of the water with your merch, like from day one. I mean, or at least from day one, as I've known you guys, which has probably been close to day one for you guys.
Oh yeah.
The merch has always been just so tight and just like it's stuff you want to wear. It is not like, oh, I got this shirt from a band I played with. It's no, this is a rad shirt and I want to wear this shirt, even if I don't like the band. If I like the band, great, but like it's like really the attention to putting together a clothing product that people want to wear regardless of any band. I mean, it's just cool stuff. So I think that you're checking that box for sure in spades. I mean, it is like the merch game is always completely tight. I always look forward to seeing what you guys have whenever we meet up with you. And I'm the proud owner of several Shrub shirts, some of which have been, overworn or lost at a festival here and there. Who knows? But definitely enjoy what you put into, and it's very very cool what you put into the merch game.
I love it. Yeah. I'm glad that you see it, see that strength too. I'm very proud of it. Like almost of anything. It's like it forged my day job. I'm not just a musician. I have a real job. And just like you, I come from a software development background, which I don't know if people on here know that about you, we are software
I
developers.
do. Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, and that's what I do for a day job. That's how I make a living. And then music right now is a passion until, it can turn into something other than that maybe someday, or we're not, right? You never know.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the merch game is what got me into writing software. The current company I work for a startup company, and we're in the decorated apparel industry. In fact, we run like the world's uh, largest decorated apparel network. So it's basically a bunch of decorators that do screen print embroidery, and we help manage that network of these decorators all over the country. We're kind of like the Uber of decorated apparel. You place an order,
Wow.
and we figure out where to fulfill it, where to get it, decorate it, and ship it. We
That's
figured out all for
interesting.
you. And
Is that a new? I know that you've worked in different software jobs over the years. Is this a relatively new thing, or is this something that you've been at for a while?
I've been at it for about 5, 6. We're at 6 years right now. I just
Okay.
had my 6 year
Okay.
anniversary there.
Okay.
Before that, dude, I'm doing like Fortune 500 work. I'm telling you, couldn't be any more boring. Working
Yeah.
for banks. I was a software developer
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Huntington Bank, if you've heard of that. It's big here
I
in the
have.
Midwest. I worked at Wendy's International working on like scheduling apps and, promotional apps that they have internally. I worked at like Big Lots doing, distribution type software. So, I mean, I've been all these like big Fortune 500 companies as a consultant over the years, and even owned a consulting firm for a while, and had like, 8 or 9 guys, I guess at most under me. And that was fun. And, of course you're making really good money, but I still lacked music. I needed it. I needed that creative side, and I never enjoyed those jobs. I just always was looking for something that had a more creative side to it. And when I found this startup that was starting here close to my house, my old manager that I had when I worked at that bank, he's the CIO. He was running the show there. And I reached out to him and I said, listen, dude, I need a job where I can smoke weed all day whenever I want, and I can tour whenever
Yeah.
I want, and I just won't get paid. If I'm gone, I won't get paid. Don't worry about it. Just it's unpaid time off. But when I'm back, I get paid when I'm here, and I'll try to work from the road too, if possible, right? And we were just
Right.
getting
Right.
ready to go out with you guys on quite a few runs around this time when I started there.
Hmm.
And he was like, all right, so you want to smoke weed and you want to tour a lot, but you're going to kick ass otherwise, right? I was like, absolutely. You're going to get the same Jay you've always had. And, I've worked for you before. I worked for him like 8 or 9 years total in my life. And I said,
Oh,
let's
wow.
let's do this shit. And he's like, let's do it. So, felt blessed as a musician to have the sort of job like that. My lifestyle. I don't drink at all, but I smoke a lot of weed, right? So, you
I
know,
know this about you. Yes.
whenever you have to work for Fortune 500 companies, I mean, there's drug tests all the time, and
Right.
oh, this silly. I can't go to work stoned, and I want to go to work stoned. So,
Yeah.
that's what makes me more creative. And I got this job, and we've been building this company ever since. We have some e-commerce sites where we sell we compete with CustomInc.com, but we also have our business to business platform, which we're trying to recover right now during what's going on, but we're slowly getting back up to where we want to be, and all our decorators are decorating still. So we're kicking ass right now, relatively speaking. And I'll always do this. I don't plan on leaving this job, but I'm free to smoke weed and tour whenever I want and make music. So I got the best of both worlds.
That sounds great. Yeah, that's like a great marriage of your skill set as a software worker, a software engineer, a developer, and sort of a creative. There's a creative outlet with it, which I think is wow. That sounds great. I myself, in this time, thinking to myself, do I get the dust off the resume? There's not really a resume to dust off. I didn't really do much working before I started doing the band full time. So I definitely think to myself, what kind of jobs are out there? What kind of software jobs would I like doing? And I still love the idea of, and you and I have had these discussions before, I think, about programming and software development and the whole problem solving aspect of it and how cool that is. And that's really kind of a rewarding thing in the same way that making music's rewarding. And it's kind of odd to say that, but it's true. But I think about being in an office space or working for like a bank, right? Like the things that you were saying, and that does not appeal to me. So the ideal thing is to find a company that doesn't mind taking on, if I were to apply to just say any kind of company, to take on somebody that has been sort of out of the software game for, 16 to 18 years at this point now, and not be like a regimented, you sit in your cubicle and punch in and punch out kind of vibe. And I know those companies are out there, but it's a new frontier, I guess, is what it is now with all that's going on. So that's pretty cool that you found this company. It sounds like a really cool marriage of your skill sets, and I'm really glad that you're happy doing it.
Yeah, it feels good to finally find that job, right? And I said this, to a couple people the other day. I said, there's this thing called The Secret, right? And I'm not trying to get on the tip of The Secret, but if you ever heard of the law of attraction or the Secret, it just says, basically you just tell the universe what you want and it'll come to you, right? That's kind of essentially the gist of it. And it's somewhat common sense. The more you express what you want, the more likely it is you're going to get it. And
Sure.
I was, for all those years, I was working at Fortune 500 companies and, wearing my polos and my khakis, right? And my shitty ass Skechers shoes that I thought looked cool. And I'm going to work every day and I'm playing a part, and that's not an authentic me. And I remember watching The Secret and talking about the law of attraction, as weird as that is. I mean, I don't see it as something spiritual at all. I see it as something as just like you can affect what happens around you by essentially just communicating about it, right? And I tried that. I called my old boss and I said, dude, I want to smoke weed and tour, man. You know anything like that? Laughing like, you guys want to hire me? And he did. And up until that point, I had never told anyone I was about to work for that I was a pothead. I never told anyone that I have 2 weed convictions on my record. You know what I mean? I didn't tell anyone that shit.
You didn't advertise that.
No, because I was scared. Oh, they're not going to hire me. But the reality is, well, that's not where you want to work. You want to work at a place where you can just say, hey, this is who I am, man. You like it or not? And in the music business is great for that, right? You can always be yourself in the music business if you choose to, and everyone's going to accept you as long as you're cool and not a dick or whatever.
Right.
But you can always be authentic. So when I came into the music industry and I saw, wow, I can kind of just be myself, the way I act when I'm around my friends or the way I act when I'm around my coworkers that I'm friends with, right? Like the inner circle kind of way I act. And I just started doing that one day. And I think anyone that's listening that, you're stuck in a job. I mean, right now may not be the best time to make moves, or maybe it's the perfect time to make moves. But, anyone who's kind of stuck, try telling everybody, what you want, what's the perfect job for you? Scott, to you, if you thought about getting into software development, you just said that to me a couple minutes ago. I'm thinking about dusting off the cleats or whatever you said, like getting back in, but 17,
Right.
18 years out, how you going to do that? And my answer to that is just tell everyone, that you're thinking about doing that, and watch, you might have a buddy who's like, dude, will you do this for me? I got 20 grand I'll put into this. You want to try to figure it out? You'd be surprised what you can find by just expressing it out loud. And I always followed through with that with the Shrub band too. The same thing. Maybe I annoyed you at times, or, you guys at times by, always being like, hey, what's coming next, guys? You guys want to do another tour? Just like always like, hey, what do you think? Fine.
But you were putting it out there.
Yeah.
You were just putting it out there.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm throwing darts and seeing what happens, and,
Yeah.
and hopefully with time and respect, hopefully Shrub earned it, at some point. But early on, you guys just threw us so many bones. I mean, we didn't deserve any of that at that point. We were just young pups, and you guys gave us some amazing opportunities, and you just got to express to the universe what you want, and kept doing that with you guys, and you guys just kept giving us more cool shit. So I ran with it and got a real job too. It's with the same philosophy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you guys obviously were, it's just the type of thing where, of all the bands that we played with, band like you guys that just puts on like a great show, it makes for a great night overall, a great overall experience. So I mean, that's why, I mean, we like you guys as people, but if you guys sucked as musicians or as performers, then that would not have happened. It's just like, you want the crowd to have a good experience. And you guys definitely delivered. But I guess, I just have to say, man, it's to hear you say this about putting it out there, and that's a philosophy that I'm definitely familiar with, but I guess maybe haven't thought about a lot, but that's pretty inspiring. And I think that maybe this is the first step for me of putting it out there in a way. And I think and thank you for that.
Yeah, I welcome you and encourage you to try it because it just works. As stupid as it is, a lot of people are like, it's the secret or whatever. It just works though because it's just common sense why it works, and it's just no different than writing yourself a note every day, a to-do list.
Yeah.
I always am doing better in life when I have a to-do list and you cross things off, but you just see it every day. You look at the list, you see it, then you start thinking about it. Oh shit, I better do that. If you don't have a list to remind you, that reminder, if you don't have that, you probably end up not doing those tasks, or at least a larger subset of those tasks don't get done. And it's no
Sure.
different, right? It's the same philosophy. It's just kind of common sense. Write yourself a note so you don't forget. Tell the world what you want so that you get what you want. It's kind of the same
Yeah.
philosophy. But yeah, man, I encourage you to figure that out. I know it's trying right now, and at the same time, for me, it is too. I initially got laid off right away, and I got another job. Actually, I found, luckily, I'm in the software business, so there are jobs. But I found this
Mhm.
other job working for this really amazing company. I was making like a lateral move, financially, so I was feeling blessed that I could find something that was, at the same level. And then I worked there for like a week, and I was like, I cannot do this corporate stuff. I just can't do it. It's just not working.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just I left right away, in the middle of all this shit. I just left and was like, no, I can't do this. It's not good for my soul. And then thankfully my company got their PPP loan and went back, right away. So but keep saying it, dude. You're gonna find some cool shit. And like this podcast alone is cool, you broadcast it out there. Hey, I want to do this. And I came knocking, Scott, how you doing, buddy? Remember me?
Yeah.
No, but it's cool, dude. I like that you're doing this. It gets us a chance, like you said with Sage, it gives us a chance to catch up. It's been so long.
Right, and it's a cool way to catch up. I mean, I guess I'm the type of person that's not so inclined to just like call up Jay Shrub and have a conversation. How you doing? Even though like I love talking with you and I love catching up with you, but like it's actually a cool way to have a purpose for let's have a conversation and catch up, and at the same time document a few things and broadcast it out to whoever the hell wants to listen. And I hope people do and are interested in it, and that just makes it all that much more better. But yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate that you like the idea, and I appreciate the whole idea about just putting it out there. And I know, I know my wife's going to hear this and she's going to say like, oh, I'm always telling him to put it out there. Like she's very much of that mindset of the, I don't know what the secret is specifically what you're talking about, but I think I know what the overall gist of that is. But just the philosophy of, I guess, putting things out there and, making things happen in a way by, there's a word that escapes me at the moment, but there's definitely a word that describes that process. What the hell is it? Anyways, but yeah, so I know that my wife's going to say like, oh, well, he's listening to Jay Shrub, but he doesn't listen to me. But I do listen to her, and it is something that's always on my mind. But sometimes I just need to hear it from a few people before it sinks in. But it's definitely that is definitely a cool way to approach things, and I applaud you for it, man. It's great, and it seems to be working out pretty damn well for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it going, see what happens.
What tell me about, well, not the band Shrub, but the name Shrub. Now, what comes first, the J Shrub or Shrub?
So J Shrub definitely came first.
Okay.
My brother, I have an older brother named Jason, and my name's Jay. So my parents, I don't know what's wrong with them. Like, I don't know if they were high.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if they were high in the 70s when we were born. I don't know. I mean, they claim they never smoked weed before, but
I don't believe that.
no, they claim that. My dad's like this military man. Man, if you only knew some of the stories about what this man's done to me, and not in a bad way. Like, I really respect how he treated me, but my oldest brother's name's Jason, and my name's Jay. And Jason went to Bowling Green State University as well. And he was ahead of me. He's 5 years older than me. So when he went to school there, he made a bunch of friends. He's still in Bowling Green, still lives there. He made a bunch of friends, and they were some of the guys were younger. And then when I went to school 5 years later, I went to BG as well, and I had some of the same friends as him. And since he lived in the town that I, went to school at, I got to see him all the time and hang out in his circles, right? Of guys that had stuck around the city after college got out, or maybe they were still in school, right?
Yeah.
And one night when he was like, I don't know, maybe a sophomore in college, he lives in this house and everybody's wasted, drunk, and our last name sounds a lot like the word shrubbery. Like, it's very close, my real last name. And all his friends were wasted, and they were like, Jason Shrubbery, get over here. And they were like talking to him wasted, and then they just became Shrub, and he became Shrub. So my brother's name was Shrub, and then I came to school there, and I was Lil Shrub. So
I see.
and that was my nickname throughout college in certain circles. And then when I was working on this project in my basement, trying to figure out what to call it, I remember when I first started it, it was just Jay for like a couple weeks, and some emails I would write, just Jay, letting my friends know it's just me working on shit by myself, right? And then and I didn't like that name, so I changed it to Rastatari, which ended up becoming like our pseudo record label that is really not. It's just me, right? It's nothing special, but and then it was invented the word tight because I worked with a guy who claimed he invented the phrase tight. Like when you say, "Whoa, dude, that was tight," like he invented that. And so
he says, or he did.
He just claims this, right? So I called the project "Invented the Word Tight" for some reason, which lasted like 3 weeks on MySpace, and then I finally figured out Shrub was the right name for that project.
Right.
But a lot of
never went.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna say you never went with Lil Shrub, like Lil Wayne, Lil Jon.
Well,
Lil Shrub?
I'm certainly not little.
You resisted the urge. You resisted the urge to do that, despite its probably its popularity in the musical zeitgeist of the time. You resisted that urge.
I did.
So good for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I could have been Big Shrub. That would fit more, or something else. I'm a bit too big to be called Little Shrub, but I wonder if my brother's pissed at me though because I took his name, right? His name was Shrub.
Yeah.
And then I took it. I used to be Little Shrub, and I took his name. But you know what? Fuck that, because he used to take my name all the time. Like, people would call when I was in high school, and they would be like, or junior high, they'd be like, "Yeah, is Jay there?" And my brother would answer, be like, "Yeah, this is him." And I'd be like, "Dude, your name's Jason, bro. Your name ain't Jay. My name's Jay." Or vice versa. People would call, and they'd be like, "Hey, is Jason there?"
I hope you don't mind me asking. Is he like a half brother, or
no?
He's your full-blooded brother, and his name is Jason, and your name is Jay.
Yeah, my parents couldn't think of another J name. My brothers are Jason, Jeff, and Jay. My parents couldn't think of another J name. They were like, Jim, no. James, no. And they were going through these things, and finally they were like, we need another J name, and they were like, how about just Jay? And they liked it, and they went with it, and they don't care. Like, I make fun of them to this day. I'm like, you guys really fucked up when you named me Jay.
I think that's amazing. I think that's probably like if nothing else out of this entire podcast, I'm so glad that I learned that. I mean, that's just, I've never heard anything like that.
It's really silly. It's really stupid.
Oh man. So you adopted Shrub in the sort of the stage name or any of J Shrub, and that became the obvious thing to use for your project.
Yeah, I've always liked the name Shrub too. I love the simplicity of it. It's 5 letters. Yeah. It's just kind of like one syllable, in your face kind of name. And obviously people think it's about weed, and to some degree it is now, right? You become whatever people want you to be. And I mean that like they can choose what they want you to be, not like you're deciding to become something else, but they decide that Shrub means weed, and then to them that's what you are. And I'm totally cool with that, because we are, right?
It definitely has. I mean, it hits all those things, right? It's a one syllable. It's a cool band. It's a really cool band name, and it definitely has those connotations of, yeah. There's some weed connotations there, and that obviously plays in lots of ways to the audience for music like you perform. So it's such a cool name in that respect. It got me thinking. And before I was on my way here to my rehearsal space here to record this, I was just thinking about the name Shrub, and I was thinking about other bands that are named after plants or horticulture themed bands in any way. So I guess I couldn't think of really any other bands. I mean, there's this band Lettuce that you may or may not have
Yep.
heard of.
Oh yeah.
There, and then I'm just racking my brain thinking, but I guess so.
What
So
about
this is
what about Robert Plant, dude?
and Robert Plant, absolutely, and I'm so glad you said that, because this is actually a shameless introduction to my first game that I'd like to play on this podcast,
Oh.
which is going to be titled "Ask Jay Shrub About Other Bands That Are Named After Plants." Do you want to play this game?
Nice. All right, let's do this. This sounds great.
So, and I really thought of this like a minute before we got on the phone, and I have the benefit of the internet, but I need you to promise me no Googling. I know that you're very tech savvy, but no Googling. But there are actually a lot of other bands that have names that incorporate the names of plants or are named after plants. And I was wondering if you could come up with, besides Robert Plant, because I did find a list and Robert Plant was on it. I would not have thought of that. I mean, that's his last name. Maybe that counts. I'm a huge Robert Plant fan and Led Zeppelin fan. So always just glad to utter his name in this podcast. But I'm thinking more about strictly just bands that incorporate the name of some sort of plant, shrub, tree, something that grows in the ground. So you
Yep.
think you can give me 5? I'm gonna pull up my list and tell me if you can give me 5, and I'll give you some hints along the way.
Yeah, I might need it, but let's try it. All right. So, I mean, I want to say Shrub just because that
You can say
I'm
say
kidding.
Shrub, but
No,
but
I'm
then
not.
I'm
not
then I'm
going
gonna
to.
say I want 6. I want 6.
I like it. All right, let's go with 10-foot ganja plant, which is a dope ass reggae band. Dope
Okay.
ass reggae band. Really good. Let's go with does this count? What about the neon trees? You ever heard of them?
That definitely counts.
Okay, so it just
That
has to
definitely
have
counts.
that in it. Okay.
Sure. That's
Um,
2. Boom. Look at you.
Oh man.
I'm looking at a few right now that are like, I want you to go back to the early 90s and I want you to go back to the late 80s.
Bush. Hold on, Bush.
Bush. There's 3. There's 3.
Sorry, I had to get that out before I forgot about it. Every time I see the name Shrub, I see Bush, dude. I read it backwards and I kind of get rid of the R and it's just Bush. Like that's what I see in my head every time. Or I see the word brush. It's like sometimes I see brush too, same letters. Anyway. Okay,
Right.
90s, huh? All right, I'm listening.
Yeah, some 90s stuff, some late 80s stuff. Now, I guess this might be too good of a hint, but I'll say it anyway, so we don't just sit on this all day. But flowers count, right? Like
Yeah,
flowers is
sure.
part of the thing. So flowers. I mean, I think it won't take you too long to come up with something that some band that might incorporate the name of a flower.
I mean, speaking of flowers, Scott, I've been cranking on flowers over here myself while we've been talking, so my brain's going slower than normal.
Am I asking you at a bad time?
No, I love it.
Is there ever a good time?
Anytime's a good time, buddy.
Yeah.
The flowers, fuck, why can't I think of this? I think of an album title called Dead Flowers, which is an album by a guy named E05, was like a rapper from Detroit. That doesn't count. But I did say Robert Plant. I feel like that should be
You did say
4.
Robert. Okay, I'll count Robert Plant because I would love to count Robert Plant in any possible way. Like, let's count him.
Man, one more, right?
I mean, there's one that is probably, I would say, of the late 80s and early 90s, probably.
Oh, the
biggest rock.
Wallflowers.
Yes, they're on the list. I was not.
Oh, not going
That's
that.
not. Well, I wasn't going toward them, but they're definitely on the list. The biggest rock band of the late '80s and the early '90s.
Ooh,
Kind of
wow.
maybe considered hair metal on some level, although I just consider them to be a straight rock and roll band.
The Gin Blossoms.
Um,
Is that a plant?
Yes, maybe it is.
Fuck, that's not it, huh? Damn it.
No, I did say one of the greatest rock and roll. I mean, I don't mean to disparage the Jim Blossoms. Great song, great songs, guys. Doing great. You know,
They
Free
are pretty
Jealousy,
good.
Great stuff.
They really
They
are.
are pretty good when it comes to early '90s pop rock. Like they kind of kill it. I'm thinking a little bit more of an Edge, a little bit more of a Jack Daniels cigarette dangling out of your mouth,
Shit.
bandana on your head if you're the lead singer, curly hair, top hat, guitar playing.
Oh, Guns N' Roses, of course.
That's what I'm talking. That's where I'm going with that one. Thank you. They were number, and I have the benefit of, I don't know that I do very well at this either. I would have the benefit of looking at the list, but you hit a lot of them. You hit a lot of the good ones. Guns N' Roses, Wallflowers, the Stone Roses, who's actually a great band from England. They were number 2. Kate Bush, also an English female artist.
Yes.
And there's a few other ones. I don't know what made me want to do that.
I
thought it
loved
would be fun. But I think, I think something like that's kind of fun. Because like I said, I was driving here and just trying to rack my brain to think about I think it's a great idea to be naming your band after a plant in some way. It just, I don't know, feels kind of natural, feels kind of cool.
I've always liked it, and I always talk about growing, too, as a person and as a band, and it's just synonymous with a plant and a shrub, and I use that analogy a lot to try to motivate folks, or at least explain the history of the band, and I always like the visual too, right? And we're all just life forms on this planet, and we're all just growing, and just like these trees and plants, and we're kind of all one. And I don't know, there's just something healing about plants, right? They're food for us, they're life, they give us oxygen, and I don't know, I just have a good feeling with the word shrub, and always have, and
yeah, it evokes a good feeling. I think that's why I was thinking about why don't more bands use this.
Hey, keep it a secret, dude. What are you doing? Don't tell anyone that shit.
Robert Plant, time to go back to your original name, whatever it is.
Bob Plant.
Jim Blossoms, gone. So now, as I guess my research can't be too extensive. You guys don't have a published bio out yet or anything, and I know about you what I know about you from performing with you guys, and we've had some, like you said, some great tours together. Just great, just Nelson Ledges alone, just those performances and in those nights are just kind of legendary at this point. But looking at your Wikipedia page is very outdated. If you want, I may know a software person that could update that for you.
Yeah, please. Let's get that updated.
Why don't we figure that out? Okay, after the interview, let's just figure this all out. Let's update it to. I mean, it's like the last entry on here is 2014. So
wow, like KO's in the band, Kevin Oliver, right at that point.
Well, yes, exactly. But to read it is cool. There's a whole list of bands that you guys have performed with. We're among them. Thank you for adding that. If you in fact did do that, us and our original band Scotty Don't on the list, as well as a bunch of other bands that we've also had the pleasure of sharing the stage with, and a bunch of other bands I didn't know you guys played, like Dinosaur Jr.
Yeah.
Wow. When did that happen?
That was probably 2000. It's one of those festivals, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So that maybe like 2012, 13-ish, if I had to guess.
Yeah. But to look at this, at least this frozen in time Wikipedia page that we're looking at, featuring Kevin Oliver, in fact,
I love Kevin.
I love Kevin. I love Kevin too. And whenever we go through Houston, he comes out and sees us and hangs out, and it's just great to shoot the shit with him. He's a real good dude, a great player, has a great history playing with Parliament Funkadelic. He's a lover of food in all ways. I mean, the one thing I know about that guy is that, all music coolness aside, with him, like, he likes talking about food, and so do I. So, like, we always got along in that respect, and he's just a great dude. But this is sort of a moment in time of Shrub where this was the sort of the iteration of Shrub maybe before the most recent iteration of Shrub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we had, we had a really fun, and that moment of Shrub was just like the heyday for me.
Yeah. It was pretty rad, man.
Not only were we playing a bunch of shows with you guys and our own shows too at times, and playing with anyone else that would give us a chance, on some bigger stages, but we played, I don't know, a 35-day run. I'm not sure how many shows we had in that run. Maybe it was 35 shows, but I want to say it was like 31 shows in 35 days or something like that with you guys once, where we went East Coast to West Coast and then back to Ohio. I
Right.
think we ended in Cleveland, Ohio. And that installment of the band, it was not only was it like a really cool dynamic on stage, we had Lyrical, a guy that I knew from college. I met him in college. He lived on my floor, and we used to sell weed to each other when we were low on weed. And not only was he in the project and touring heavily with us and playing, some great shows and offering what he brings to the table, but we had a guy like Benny Coles playing with us as well, who's just killing it right now with the Quasi Kings. And
Right.
that was just like a really fun time where there's a song called Triple Play that's on our High Ceratops album, and that is a representation of Lyrical, Benny, and myself kind of joining forces and Voltroning that up. And I mean, that was as fun at times as I think you can have as a band. And
Yeah.
there's a song on the new album called Left Behind that kind of it discusses and touches on the demise or the slow death of Shrub. And it touches on all these topics of, having like this most amazing moment in your life and then it kind of falling apart. But, those days, I mean, maybe that's why I like the Wikipedia to be the way it is, because it captures like the heyday of Shrub. And, of course I'm trying to resurrect it. But it's hard to beat the High Ceratops album for me. I love it, but Back to Earth, it's just the truth now, it's just a real raw take on life versus the fun party festival kind of vibe that you get from the High Ceratops album. So,
Yeah.
I do miss those days, man. I was thinking the other day about a really funny thing that happened when we were on the road. And, I just think back, and I think I joined you guys for a couple shows in Florida where I like jumped on your bus and just did that one song Live at Ease with you guys.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And I remember just like laying in bed one night, and I was in the bunk, right, and ceiling's right above me. And, in our situation, we're like in this shitty old RV that would break down, and you guys are maybe in the bandwagon at the time. And
Right.
I remember staring at the ceiling going, wow, I'm going with these guys and, play these shows. And I remember like thinking, I was on top of the world and like, wow, this is so great. And I remember I get a phone call from my parents, like, I don't know, maybe like right after the show that night. And I was feeling really good. I think we were playing like maybe in Gainesville, Florida or something like that. And my dad calls me and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm on the bus right now with Bad Fish and we're playing these shows and it's going great. And he's like, so you skipped your best friend's wedding, huh? I was like, fuck.
Oh shit.
And it just got me thinking about those days. Like it was so much fun back then. And we were just riding this amazing ride at that point and building something so cool for us. And I even skipped my best friend's wedding to go on tour with you guys. So
So you didn't forget about it. You just
Oh no, I skipped it.
You just knew you were skipping.
He's calling me to give me shit for skipping my best friend's wedding to go on tour. And, my best friend still gives me, his name's Chris. Chris still gives me shit about this, and his wife, I've known her since I was in kindergarten. Like we went to school together.
Oh, wow.
And, they don't let me forget about this, but it was funny. It just got me thinking back to those days that it was that magical. And you just felt like you had to just keep going with it. And, maybe I'll keep the Wikipedia with a historical background too, and then a current state, just to tell the story.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. Yeah, definitely some good times, man. Like we've had some memorable nights with Shrub. I just can't. There's some that I don't even know that we should talk about, even. But, I mean, then there's certainly the. I can just remember the one time when we were all driving. I think we were driving up to Chicago from St. Louis, or maybe vice versa, and it was snowing
Oh
out.
shit!
And I
Yes.
think that I think was one of our guys, Chris, riding with you guys. Is that right? Or am I?
I don't know about that, but I remember that our merch
Um,
girl was driving our van at that moment.
yeah, you know what the episode I'm talking about is
Of
when you guys
course.
you skidded off the road, and that was a whole, yeah, that was and I feel like that may have been like the tail end of a tour, and like at the tail end of a tour,
Oh, you're talking
you know what
about,
I'm.
no, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about when we skid off into the ditch. Yeah, when
Yes.
Gator was driving, I think Gator.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I think Chris was with us for that one. Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah, and I don't even know why, but I think he was with you guys, and because we were just kind of caravanning down the road from date to date, from town to town, and maybe one person would jump in with the other crew, and however it worked out. But yeah, you guys went off the road, and like I said, it was, I think, toward the end of a tour, and it was probably a pretty grueling tour, and you know what I'm talking about. But for anyone that doesn't, the tail end of a tour can be a little bit taxing on your mental state. Like you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you may have had enough of like eating at truck stops and not sleeping in a comfortable place, or not getting enough sleep, or eating shitty food and all this stuff. The downside of a musician's life, it starts to wear after several weeks on the road. And I feel like maybe we were in that point, and we thought that might have been the tipping point for you guys, as far as like, that's it, we're done, we're out. The RV broke down, we skidded into the snow, we're done. Of course, it wasn't the end. It was just another bump in the road. No pun intended, but it's just one of those funny moments, one of those funny Shrub moments that just comes to mind, and there's so many of those. But if you could speak to, I really wanted to get back to you, speaking to the new album and the content on that album, and how you've documented and sort of put into that album I guess the hiatus that you took from the band, which I guess I never realized that it was an official hiatus from the band. Whether it was like the band's over or we're just taking a break, I didn't know how serious that was. But apparently on the new album, there's a lot of content that talks about that. So tell us about it if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the album is a really real and authentic representation of that hiatus. I mean, it starts off, I think, with a more positive take on, all the people that helped take care of us and all the people we're fans of. There's the first song on the album is called Shrub Love, and it delves into just paying respect to people like Scotty Don't, for example. I just couldn't think of anything to rhyme with Badfish, so sorry about that.
I'm running late for the 311 short bus to Long Beach. I'm a catastrophe. Dirty heads.
That's quite okay.
But, I think from there on, the album takes this interesting turn where, it tells a love story at first. Talks about, like being with someone that's the type that you're going to marry someday. And then it jumps into like being apart from somebody and being away from them and, thinking about them. And then it jumps to some real painful stuff. And then back to, some more upbeat stuff. I have a song called My Radio, which, a lot of people think it's about a radio, but it's really about my best friend, my little dog that's named Radio. And really that's what the song's about.
Oh, wow.
And it celebrates him, and I always do that. Like I had a song on the last album called Supergirl, which is about my daughter. It's just pretty straightforward and Radio,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little different because you don't know that I have a dog named Radio, but that's really what the song is about. So, it's kind of going through all these things that, pain of breaking up and being with someone, and then, the love of the dog and things like that. Like you're going through all these like really emotional kind of rides. And then the last song on the album is called Left Behind. And, Left Behind is a song that, literally last night I was listening to the album, like I go to different like DSPs, that are streaming the album, and I listen to make sure it sounds good in case there's a problem with it. I want to make sure, I get it fixed, right, and work with those guys to, I just want to know, right? So I was checking that out,
Sure.
and I just started listening to the album, and I was like, man, I'm going to listen to this all the way through, and I smoked a couple joints and put on some headphones. Hadn't done that since the album came out, and just wanted to listen and hear it, hear it as a listener would hear it, not as the person who put it together. And
Right.
when that song came on, I started tearing up, man. I really did. And, I don't have a problem being one of those guys that's like, yeah, I cried. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, it fucking hurts.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
willing
Yeah,
to
sure.
to always cry if I need to. Like it makes me feel better, right? Like that kind of sappy sort of thing for me is not something I'm kind of ashamed of. And like last night, I'm like sitting there listening to it, and I'm like tearing up, and it when I hear that song, I hear a guy, myself, who's wondering why everyone's fucking getting out, why everyone's leaving and not sticking with it. And, as the leader, the project kind of became mine, and it started as mine. Right. And when something starts that way and then continues that way, and you've invested all that time and money and whatever into it, and then it starts falling apart and rapidly falling apart. I remember playing a show in Cleveland, Ohio with you guys. It was the last show of that big tour we were on, and it was at House of Blues. And I remember being on stage, and just the crowd was singing back the words to our songs to us. And, and there's such big Bad Fish fans in Northeast Ohio. I mean, it is like you guys run that place, Nelson Ledges, et cetera. But I remember as soon as that show got over, a guy we had in our band at the time, Skeevy, Alex, his nickname's Skeevy. I'm not calling him Skeevy. Alex, quits, and then Josh quits, right? And Left Behind, kind of tells the story, the first verse up until that moment. And, I say in the song, I say, and I cannot forget Cleveland was fucking lit, right? And it really was. It was like the culmination and, the climax of the Shrub story up until that point was that night. It was just amazing. And then the band fell apart. And that was the motivation of that song, was like that moment, realizing that really led to everyone else kind of leaving. We brought in some new guys. I played a lot less role at that point in time, getting those guys on board. And ultimately, the band disbanded, and then they went off and did their project. And I was kind of left there, at the time, playing, like the blame game and putting it on everyone else. And when I started writing Left Behind, I was telling the story, and I was sitting there like, okay, you left, and this is why, and fuck Nate, this guy that was in the band stole from me, fuck him, right? Like I'm writing this shit.
Yeah.
And then it's like I started like thinking more about it and realizing that, that's not the kind of song I want to write. I wanted to write something that told the real story, and the real story is being in a band's fucking hard. And
Sure.
it's hard to get everyone on the same page, and everyone works hard and they have their own motivations. And, my
Right.
dream isn't everyone else's dream. And I need to respect that and realize that. And also at the same time, realize that I got a lot of faults too. And as I started writing that second verse, that's kind of the direction I took it. I took it to a place where, you can sit there and say, well, you did this and you did this, but look in the mirror too, and then actually realize reality. And that's where the song takes the listener. It's that realization at the end that fuck it. It's always been about me, and I'm selfish. And, I should have figured out a way to not be so selfish, in the sense of, yeah, I brought the band here, and yeah, I was Shrub for so long, but I wish I could have figured out a way to make everyone feel like they were the Shrub band, right? And that's
Yeah.
really the point of that song. And I sat there the other night listening to it, just fucking tearing up because I do miss my family. You know, there's certain guys that have been in the band that I don't look at as old bandmates. I look at them as, you know, my little brothers or my kids, even some of them, or they're
Yeah.
my friends, you know, whatever it may be. And I don't know, man. That song gets me. That's why I made it the last song on the album. I want the message of that to resonate. I mean, that is the darkest part of the album, in my opinion. And then it's also the most like uplifting to me. You know, I end it with like getting the fucking, you know, or what do I say? I say something about, you know, go back where I came from is the last line. And, you know, I really did need to go back where I came from. I needed to go back to Shrub, Just Jay, with Blaine Dillinger, and go back and piece it all together again. And this next round, you know, this phase, let's call it phase 2, right? That the first 10 years was this phase 1 of me trying to figure out how to hold it together. And phase 2 is
Right.
I know what I'm doing now in the sense of how to work personal relationships and how to respect people. And I think the more respect you give people, the more respect you get back. And, you know, if I practice that as much as I preach it, then there's no way this can fail. And that's the whole point of Back to Earth. I came back, you know, I'm back to reality, back to Earth, back to being present and back at it.
Yeah, that's great, man. That sounds like that song in particular sounds like a therapeutic kind of cathartic thing for you, in a way. I mean, do you feel like it's does it feel like it's almost an apology? I mean, I don't know the depth of the relationships or the fractured anything that may have gone down, but I mean, it sounds to me almost like you're you're owning up to some stuff on that. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, you know, there's two sides to every story, right? Like
Yeah,
that
of course
common
there is.
phrase. And there
Yeah, at
really
least.
is, you know, and to all the people that were in the band over the years, that left for whatever reason, and you know, part of that I'm sure has to do with me. Part of it has to do with lots of things, right? But I'm definitely part of that equation. And you know,
Yeah.
I went to marriage counseling a long time ago when I was still married because we were trying to figure
Mhm.
out how to keep the marriage together. And the counselor said something very profound to me. He said, "Listen, go home and write down everything that you do wrong in this relationship and everything that you're willing to do to fix that." And then he went to my wife and he said the same thing. Go home,
Mhm.
write down everything you're willing to do and everything that's wrong, I guess, with the relationship and everything you're willing to do to fix it. And when I came back to that next session, and my list was, you know, 50 lines deep, right? Of I do this wrong, I do this wrong, I'm willing to fix this, I'm willing to fix this, I'm willing to fix this. And my
Yeah.
ex-wife came and she had a blank piece of paper. And at that moment, I really realized something that lived with me all the way through Shrub. I mean, all the way through to present day Shrub, which is the most important thing you can do to keep a relationship healthy. And the only thing you can really control, too, that's a very important thing to understand, is yourself. So you have to look in the mirror and you have to say, well, what was I doing wrong and what am I willing to fix? Now, it doesn't matter the
Sure.
percentage game. It doesn't matter that 50% of the time you were wrong and 50% of the time you were wrong or whatever it may be that you're bickering about. In the
Mhm.
end, I mean, every band's different and the dynamics are different, the timing of the band and the different personalities. It all just, you know, it's ebbs and flows as to who's right or wrong at any given point. And it just took me a little bit of time to grow up and realize that I was a part of the equation. It wasn't just that everyone fucked me over. Like that's not what I needed to think like, you know? And because it
Yeah.
wasn't true. I I'm responsible for my actions that led to like Josh leaving the band, you know, and
Mhm.
pushing him too hard, demanding too much, putting too much on his plate. And, you know, he ultimately left the band and Skeevy left the band for that very reason. I just worked Josh. I tried and worked him too hard.
Mhm.
And when you look at something like that, you know, I've called Josh. He was one of the first people I called when I sort of came to this realization that I needed to mend, you know, the fences or whatever, you know, repair the bridge. And Gator and I
Yeah.
are still friends, you know, Josh Gator Synonymous. Gator and I are still close friends. He still comes over here. We sit there and work on music together sometimes, you know. But I never apologized to him and really said, listen, dude, I'm sorry that I relied solely on you and that pushed you so hard and fucking yelled
Yeah.
at you for shit that I shouldn't have been yelling at you for, and I took that and I said, I have to make amends with him and apologize to him. And that's part of the healing, right? And that's part of changing. I can't go back and fix the things that I did in the past, but I can certainly try to repair the damage that was done. And that was just one instance of the things that I can do, right? I can't do, I can't go to Josh and say, well, look what you did wrong. You should fix that now. I mean, that's up to him as a person to do that. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong either. I'm just saying in general, as that's all we can control, right? I'm repeating myself, but that's all
our own stuff.
Yeah, that's all we can control. And that's what I had to do for me. And it makes me feel better about the path I'm on. It hopefully that repairs some relationships. Of course, I have a lot of healing to do too. And there was a lot of things that, people like Benny and I, we've talked a lot about, what we each did wrong and how we handled the situation. And even recently, after the album came out, Benny texted me and he's like, hey, he's like, this is how I feel about the album. This is, my take on it, great work, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It felt really good to get that message from him. And then, I think I fired back with, something a little heartfelt, and he did too. And we expressed a lot of love in that moment and understanding. And I think me putting this song out there and expressing that and then taking ownership of it, I think it has mended these fences with certain people in the band.
It's definitely probably like the biggest cliche for bands that talk about their interpersonal relationships is to say like a band is like a marriage. But I mean, that is really freaking true, man. Like there is no doubt, that there is ways in which we interact with each other in a band that are just very similar to the ways that we interact with each other, a husband and wife, or any kind of spousal situation. It's so true, and it's like I said, it's a cliche, but man, you find yourself doing, I guess, later in life. I'm 42. You're about the same age as me, maybe.
Yeah, I'm 42
a few years older.
I'm 42.
You're 42.
Yep.
Yeah, we're the same age. So, and you've been through a divorce. I thankfully haven't, but there's certainly always things to work on in a marriage, and you learn things as you get older, and you learn how to own your own shit, and you learn how to realize that, it's not maybe all about me in a way. And I think that to come to that realization, whether it's in a marriage or any kind of friendship or any kind of relationship or in a band, I think it's a good place to be. And it sounds to me like this is a really cool place for you to be in, where you're not only putting out an album that you're proud of, but you're also sort of kind of wiping the slate clean a little bit, and you're making some not even apologies, but like you're just owning some of your stuff. And I think that that must feel incredible for you to be in this place right now.
It does. You say clean slate. It's for me, it's this weight off my shoulders, and you hold on to negative energy for so long, and you just sit there and stew. And I did that. It's stupid, but I fell into the trap, and it was not healthy for me, right? It's not healthy for the people around me and my relationships. A lot of failed relationships with girls over the years, and now thankfully I got an amazing girl. But I think the only way I would have gotten and met someone that is a healthy person is to first get healthy myself. And I think that's so important, to get healthy yourself, and everything else will fall into place. And I needed to get there, and I'm still working on it, right? I can't sit here and claim I'm the best, and I'm healed and I'm cured, and I don't hold on to any negative forces. Of course I do, but
well, that's the point, right? That that if you ever think that you're done working on something, then you're not getting it. I mean, the idea is that you always have to be working on something. You always have to be improving. You don't come to the end of it,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well,
Well, now I'm gonna start crying, Scott. Thanks, buddy.
yeah.
Thanks. No, just kidding.
Well, so okay, yeah. So let's recap. We said we weren't going to get all bummed out about COVID-19, but all of a sudden we're getting really deep.
Yeah, but not about COVID. Fuck.
Not about COVID, about other shit, man. No, I appreciate you kind of opening up like that to me, man. It's like that's a I think you're thinking things and you're feeling things as a band member, as a human being that like we all kind of feel, and it's and I too, man, I can get very emotional about this stuff too, and it's not always easy to express that, and I appreciate you being open and willing to talk about that kind of stuff. It's hey man, what it is what it is, man. It's our life. It's what we're we're creative types, artists, but also just human beings with regular relationships with other people. And inevitably, this stuff one thing bleeds into the other, and you're going to be at odds with bandmates. You're going to be at odds with friends and family. It's just the way it goes, and it's kind of how you deal with it, and not realizing that it's not quite all about you. I think is a great approach. I'm really glad that you're feeling that. I feel like I'm kind of there too in some way, or still working on it, but like you said, it's a work in progress.
It is. Every day I got to remind myself too of these things, because you can drift away a little bit, drift apart from these philosophies or these, this path.
Sure.
And you just got to keep getting back on track, keep reminding yourself it's okay. Let go of the shit, just let it go. It's not worth holding on to.
Yeah, totally.
And at the end of the day, you don't really know whose fault it is anyway. It's like everyone has the blame. So just forget about it, wipe the slate clean. And, I hope I play music again with the guys that used to be in the band. I reached out and said, let's collab on some shit.
Hell yeah.
And
I hope so too.
we hadn't had that conversation before, and I just felt like, man, I'm just gonna throw it out there to the universe. Let's release a couple songs together. Like, why not? You know how fun that would be for us and like the old school fans, how much they would love that. So, we'll see. I'm putting it out there again in the universe and say, I think we should definitely do that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. Yeah, putting it out there again. I think that's a great philosophy to kind of hold on to, and I'm gonna work on doing that myself. What is what's the most exciting thing besides your own album, which is obviously very exciting, and spending all this time with your daughter, of course, thinking, with her reminding you how uncool you are. What's some of the coolest stuff that you've been thinking about or listening to, reading, anything like that in your life? Anything that's turning you on, like giving you, I guess I don't want to end on like a too introspective of a note here. Let's end on something that's a little bit more like, fuck yeah, man, this is cool. What do you listen? Anything you're listening to or into that's cool that you would recommend to me or to anyone else that's listening?
Yeah, there's a couple cool things that I'm like super into this week or in the last couple of weeks. One thing, I'm a sports fan, Scott. I know you are too. You like sports,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I'm not a huge NBA fan now, but used to be. Man, that Michael Jordan, The Last Dance on ESPN.
Yes.
Have you been watching that?
I'm up to, I want to say episode 5. My daughter and I are watching it together because she's really into it. I'm so glad that she's into it. But that it's such a nostalgia trip for me because I've never been the biggest NBA fan either. But obviously, the late '90s, well, the whole '90s era of the Chicago Bulls is remarkable, right, in every way. But just that's the time in our lives, and we were through high school and college, basically, right? The whole '90s, and that's, I guess, I don't know. To me, when you're most tuned into pop culture, sports, music, everything, and it's so nostalgic to see some of this footage, man, and to just think about the run that they had. So we're about, I want to say we're up to episode 5. And what is there, 8 total?
There's going to be 10, or there is 10. The 10th.
Oh, there's 10.
Yeah.
Well, I could watch 50 of them, honestly. I love it.
I know.
It is incredible. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's really, of all things out there right now, that is something, if you're even in the least inclined to watch anything about sports, that is just, there's, so entertaining.
It's fire. It's
it
great.
Really is.
It's great television.
Yeah.
So I'm watching that right now. I was watching, I I was watching a lot of movies like on DVR. Like I was finding random movies for a while, doing that. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm starting to get into that. My girl, she got me into this podcast called Ear Hustle. Have you ever heard of Ear Hustle?
Ear Hustle, like
Yeah.
EAR?
Yes, correct. It's
No, but I will make a note of it right now.
it's a really cool podcast where this crew goes in and they create a podcast with prisoners in a maximum security prison. There's murderers and all kinds of people that they interview and talk to, and they tell the story of prison life from the point where you get checked in to the point where you leave or you don't leave, right? And they just tell these stories, and it's done really well. And I'm hooked on this, just learning about the penal system or the jail system, and how it works inside. It's not really about in the United States what are private jails and public jails and what's this. It's not like that. It's more like a guy tells a story about something that happened to him in the mess hall or something. And
wow, okay, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like it. So I've been listening to a lot of that lately. Music wise, I'm just listening to a lot of like the new releases, to be honest. In the reggae rock world right now, I kind of dropped away a little bit and kind of tuned out while I was on the hiatus. Part of me was just, it's hard to hear some of the music, just because it's like I miss it so much. It makes me miss the shows or the scene or whatever.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Right now I'm listening to a lot of like the new stuff that's coming out. Any band that's sort of putting things out there. I'm listening to a lot of like, like my daughter listens to a lot of like current hip hop, and I really can't stand most of what I'm hearing, honestly, like to be perfectly honest. But there are things that I'm hearing where I'm understanding why she's tapping into it so much, and it's kind of funny just to listen to what they all do the dances, right? So she's performing at home doing her TikTok dances, so listening to a lot of that music just because she's got it on. I let her kind of express herself too. We can't just listen to what I want to listen to all day.
Sure.
So I'm doing a lot of that, and that's really, and writing music, honestly, Scott, is, I was working on, Blaine sent me a beat today, like this track that he had produced, and sat there, having writer's block for a while, and then today started working on it again. And I think I got the hook, which, you get the hook, man, you're feeling pretty good on a song.
Once you get that hook, once you get that hook, man, that's the magic, man. That's that intangible magic. So once you get that hook, you're right.
It is. So I got the hook and I got the intro, which is cool because it's like this different sort of intro that brings the song in nicely. So I got these elements in place. Now I just got to figure out what I'm really going to talk about, and that's in my delivery too. I really want to showcase my rap skills. So I'm going to work on that.
You should, man. You should. You have great rap skills. I can say firsthand knowledge of it. At least from where I'm sitting behind the drum kit. When you've come up to freestyle and do your thing on Live at Ease with us, the Sublime track, it's just, I mean, it's definitely a highlight of my night whenever we do that. Not your skills on the mic, yes, for sure, but the synchronized jump off the drum riser for that last hit is really what's getting me going. You know what I mean?
Of course. I love doing that every time. I think we're going to do that forever. We'll never stop jumping off that thing.
I love that we did the song for a while, so we knew that's the move. But now, we still do the song once a year, and we still know that's the move.
Absolutely.
And we don't even have to talk about it, and it happens. I mean, that's the kind of shit that I really like, man. Man. Well, Jay, it's been great talking with you, dude. And thanks so much for doing this. I really sincerely appreciate it, and it's so great to hear your backstory, the new album, the other bands that are named after plants. I mean, I can't even tell you. I feel like that game is going to go into podcast legend. I mean, if it hasn't already, it's going to go into podcast legend. And like you said, dude, it's just great. It's just great catching up with someone who I consider a friend and a fellow musician whom I really respect in every way. And I thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. It feels good to catch up with you and get a little deep too. I liked it, man. Thank you.
Cool, man. Well, take care of yourself, and we'll be seeing you at some point down the road. Who knows when, but we will be seeing you at some point. I guarantee you the double drum riser jump will happen again. I promise you. I promise everyone out there. I know everyone wants it. Come on, everyone wants it. Come on. So thanks again, Jay. I appreciate it.
Scott, I appreciate everything, dude. I love you, man.
Take care, brother. Love you too.
See you.